Well, I'll mainly deal with 13 and up. I don't think it's that important because at some point, I think there is a meritocracy. I kind of go back to the vision of the club, but if we're talking in general, I think there is a meritocracy that you also don't want to dilute and punish kids for being talented. I've been blessed to coach numerous teams with national team players on it. So part of my task is always maximize the individual, right? So if I'm just rotating the starting center mid from the U17 national team to right back for fun, well, she's going to stop making the national team. So it's hard to have the sweeping generalization of what you should do or shouldn't do. So everything has to be within context. I don't think you can get that much better without having the litmus test of a game. I think you can get better at practice, but at some point you start to learn this kid's fast, this kid does this kid always scissors this. Like at some point, the cadence of your coach of okay, we're going to do this next or this, and you lose the contextual content or of seeing the game and learning the game because you're at the same field, the same numbers, same grid. Us coaches only have so many drills past 6 months, right? So when you're playing different games and this team's a long ball team, short team, whatever, then you're challenged to think in a way that usually makes us coaches go back, okay, I didn't prepare them for that. Why didn't I? Oh, I was only stuck in this way. So I think the game is a necessity for joy and for the test. I think it's very liberal arts-ish. If you're like, we're just going to study all year and never take a final, like, okay, am I good or am I not, right? But you join competitive athletics for that answer at some point. And I think in rotating players, I think younger ages, I'll defer to the genius of Texas. But I think at older players, I think there's a time and place. But I also, my personality is at some point, jack of all trades get beat by specialists. And I think there becomes a moment where you have to create a functional dominance on the field, where 10 years ago, jack of all trades were full scholarship kids because they could do everything. Now people are like, you have a flip throw, full ride. You can head every ball, full ride. You can score free kicks, full ride, right? Because they're specialists. So I think there's a balance of it, but I also think it goes to what does your club want? What's your team want? And how can you best maximize individual player performance and experience while keeping it in a team setting, which is very difficult to do. But yeah, I'm not a big rotate to rotate. I think younger age maybe, but at the older, if I'm at every practice and I'm the best player and I score 3 goals, don't punish me.
All right, Katie, you're back. Let's try this again.
Okay, I think it's fine now, but this kid is riding a 4-wheeler back and forth, so I'm not having good luck tonight. This is like the country life. Okay. But anyways, so basically what I was saying, to keep a long story short, is when you go the route, so like you're playing a team and maybe they're not great and you think that you should beat them pretty well. And so you'll start a group that maybe never starts, and then it kind of gets to the point where almost your kids don't even take the game seriously, right? And so, I mean, at the college I was at, we had this situation happen, and we started a lineup that would probably have never started, and the game started off super slow. And it wound up being like a game where we just could not get in the groove of anything. Like we could not find the back of the net. We could not find passes going forward, and things that we usually do well with, we really struggled. And it was like we just didn't start the game off on the right foot. And so I guess for me, the question becomes like, when you have those games, do you start the best group, get out of the gate strong, and then make subs as you go? Do you try to let other kids start? Because it is important for players, and I think at least high school and younger, it's important for players to learn how to come off the bench. And I think there is an important part of like your best player. Maybe this is another debatable thing, but maybe shouldn't always start because they need to learn how to come off of the bench and how to come and impact a game later on. And so I guess the question is just like, how do you, and I know there's no one right answer, but how do you try to balance that and kind of get those kids the opportunity to try and come off the bench and try to start games and try to be involved in these different roles while also not putting the team in a tough spot or being overconfident or whatever?
Michael, let me jump real quick. So I had one of those games in college for the first time ever this year when we went down to the South and played a SWAC school. I always believe in winning levels, college, whatever, start your best players every single time. And usually start the second half. And we were up 7-0, and I started my best players in the second half and just subbed them quickly after we started at a level. I also think sometimes we overthink things, and when you fabricate a situation, if they are your best player, they'll know it's fabricated, so you're actually not training them to come off the bench because they know they're just rotating and rotate. They haven't actually been put on the bench, right? Like, and the intention is brilliant, but in actuality, if they're really that smart or that good, they're going to be like, well, I'm not really learning how to come off the bench. She's just doing it to do it. Where if they're put on the bench because of performance, which most kids see, okay, you moved up 8th grader, I'm a freshman in high school, I moved to varsity, JV to varsity, and I'm on the bench, right? That's earned, or like I've been blessed, they go to national team camp and travel to England and don't play 2 games. Okay, that's earned. That gave them more hunger than if I put them on the bench on the team they know they're the best in. I think that starts to create drama unless you have a clear vision on why, and it's transparent and clear to the player, the parent, on why you're doing it and what you're hoping to get out of it.
Yeah, I appreciate that because this was something and I'm very open-minded, and I think we all should be, right? But this is something I never did and I never thought of. But then I actually saw something and some people were discussing this and it kind of changed my mind. But now that I'm listening to you, I'm like changing my mind back. I'm like, yeah, no, they should actually start. So I don't know. I'm very big in the camp of like the best players should start. But then I don't know, a few months ago I was kind of like, well, is that right? And now I'm like, yeah, I think it is. So, I always go back and forth on things, I think, but I like that answer.
I think again at the older ages in high school, for example, I did not change my starting lineup for league. When I was messing with my lineup to see what I wanted and who I wanted where, that was in preseason. But come league, this was now the only different game of that was senior night because I had 11 seniors, so I started 11 seniors, and some of them started in different areas, whatever. And you could see the difference. You could see that we weren't starting up as fast as we normally do. We were sitting back a little longer than we normally do, things like that. But again, like you said, that's a different situation. That's senior night. I'm not going to take that away from them. They're going to get to start that night. Some of those girls will never play another soccer game in the rest of their lives, so I'm going to give them that opportunity. But at the youngest ages, a lot of it also comes with like, they like it. Like they want to play. They want to own that position. I had a player, she loves playing defense, and no matter what I did to try and push her outside, push her in the middle, push her up top, and she had fun, did well each place. Every time though, she's like, I just really like playing defense. And so who am I to tell her no? Who am I to tell her no? I'm going to rotate you around. So I think, again, there's a balance between the youngest ages being able to learn and develop. I don't like to pigeonhole kids, especially with just certain positions under the age of 10, 11. They start to specialize, I think, a little bit more in middle school. And that's when you can start to really also turn into that motivation of, I want to start. I want to be on instead of like, I know I'm going to be there, I want to be in the starting lineup.
Mike, what are your thoughts on this? I know you said you have a top team. We know they're the top team. How do you handle that starting rotation versus maybe some of your more developmental groups coming up?
So this is actually a question I get asked quite a bit. And so it's pretty first. The first thing was that the part of this is, how do I know where kids are going to be good, or how do I know where to position kids early on in early in their development? And it's funny because what I do is I feel like every kid has a natural feel for where they want to be on the field. Their instinct puts them all in a different spot, right? If you throw a ball out there, if you say, okay, here's some pennies for you guys go put yourself over there, you guys put yourself over there, right? Just make two teams, throw them on the field, and you'll watch them set themselves up, right? You'll watch. Some kids' natural instinct is to play way behind the ball. Some kids' natural instinct is to be on the ball. Some kids' natural instinct is to be in front of the ball, right? And so I can look at it and go, okay, that kid's going to be a defender. That kid's going to be in the midfield. That kid's likely. That's where their natural body positioning feels comfortable in relation to wherever the ball is, right? And that's how I kind of start positioning players the first time I start building a team. And so I can say, okay, these kids are going to start out on defense because if you put them out there and the way they feel it, they're going to stay in position. Okay, you can say, okay, you're left back. You're going to stay back automatically. Why would I fight that, right? And you're going to want to be on the ball. You're a midfielder. You would like to play way in front. We'll start you out, and then we'll rotate you later. Okay, but let's put them where they're comfortable early on. And I probably handle player rotation a little bit different than most, because if I say, okay, you're left back, you're left mid, you're center mid, you're striker, I leave them there for like 6 to 9 months. I've got years with these kids. I don't have to rotate them every game. Okay, I want them to get good, learning the position, learning the movement, learning how to see it. And then, I'll move them 6 to 9 months later to a different position. And so I want them to understand, because if they're playing 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, and 10 minutes here, right? They probably didn't learn anything during those minutes. And so they need to be in a certain position for a long period of time to really understand how that is played and how the game is played. They get comfortable, and then once they get comfortable with the positioning, they get comfortable learning decision making. And so I probably handle it a little bit different than most coaches. Now, onto the other part of this, are starters important? When do you have starters versus coming off of the bench? For me, at my age group, starters aren't important at all until resubs are not allowed. Once a player's pulled, if you're not allowed to put him back in, that's when whoever is a starter starts mattering, right? That's when that matters, because if I have 25-minute halves, and if I'm subbing kids 4.5 minutes, that would be the insinuation that the first 12.5 minutes is more important than the second 12.5 minutes, and it's not. It isn't more important. So, if a kid's going to get half a game, that it doesn't really matter who the starters are. I don't really have a starters group to be. Now, if I know my opponent, I do have a 7 and that I like. If I were to pick 7 starters on a 7v7 game, I know who my 7 would be, right? If I had to go into a tournament final and I had 7 starters, right? I know who my 7 are, right? But I may rotate those kids all season long, just for me, the first 12.5 minutes of the game aren't more important than the second 12.5 minutes. And so once parents typically find that out, they're generally pretty okay, with their kid coming off of the bench or not starting, because starting doesn't generally matter that much at U9, U10, U8. So because the kids are just going to be rotating throughout the course of the game anyway, as far as minutes go. And so like she was saying before, I have players who want to play defense, right? They love it. I have a little girl on my 2015 boys team. She's an incredible defender, and she gives everything she has every time I put her back there. And if I tell her, you know what, I need you to go play striker, the shoulders drop, the head goes back. Oh, okay. I mean, she'll do it for me. But when I tell her, hey, go to left back, she's in there and she's ecstatic. She just loves playing defense, right? And so I want her experience to be fun for her, and I want her to enjoy the game. And part of my job is to help players fall in love with and continue to be in love with the game. That's a big part of my job at my age groups. And if I'm always making her play somewhere she doesn't want to play, now there's times when I need her skill set in a different spot, right? Tactically, I may make a tactical adjustment, and and be like, no, you're electric up there. I need you up there for right now, right? Go show me you, right? But she'll get it if I build her up a little bit. No, I need you up there. I need your skills. I need your talent up there right now. If I hype her up a little bit, she'll be happy to go in. But if they set themselves up, she goes, I'm left back. and so it's just that so I'm trying to, it's a fine balance between helping the, kids want to be there, right? You can't make a kid want to be there. You can help them to want to be there, but you can't make a kid want to do it. So, but as far as starters go, at my age groups, the last 12 minutes of a half are just as important as the first 12 minutes of a half. And so though it doesn't really matter. Now, tactically, have I started some bench players? Yes, I have. Because there are times when I want to maybe catch my opponent in his shift, because I know most coaches will start their best 7, right? And then they'll go to their weaker group. And then if I put my stronger group in, I'll catch them on the shift, right? So tactically, I might be doing something, but the minutes aren't going to change, and who starts really doesn't.